Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tilson Live. It is Tuesday. It is 2 o'clock. It is time for Tilson Live. So thank you for joining us. We are Tilson Homes. You may be thinking Eric looks a little bit different this week. He is not joining us, and instead I have our absolute favorite all-time guest. He's been on the most often. Justin Ordeneaux, our SVP of Construction, is here to help me out today and talk to all of you guys about the construction. So welcome, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the warm welcome, Miss Dawn.
You're welcome. Just excited to be back. We've been off the air for a little while because Eric and I were doing our real job. So we finally had a little break. So very excited to have Justin with us here to talk about construction and kind of walk everybody through what that process looks like from when you're dealing with Tilson. So everybody, you guys know the drill. Put in the chat where you're watching from, where you're building. Let us know that you're here. And I will let Justin talk a little bit about his Tilson journey for those of you who haven't met him before. So what brought you to Tilson, Justin?
Man, it's sad. I feel like I'm aging here, just aging in place. This office is actually where I cut my teeth in Katy, Texas, circa 2006. So this is my 20th year this year. So been here for quite some time, not since 1932, but I've aged just a little bit better than that. But no, started out as a builder here in the Katy Sales Park, working alongside good guys like David Hasey and Eric McKiernan and a lady named Araceli Harris back in the day. So a little blast from the past there.
Nice.
Then very fortunately, got an opportunity to manage the Gulf Coast. So I was VP of the construction for Gulf Coast. And then our COO, he was moving into retirement. So they were kind of divvying up responsibilities, and sure enough, I landed on the SVP part, and so I now get to travel the state and get to see all the wonderful places we build. Some places we don't yet. Coming soon, maybe, right?
Coming soon, yes.
So no, it's just been a great ride, and very fortunate to be here.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you here. I appreciate you guys joining us. I realized I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dawn Dantzler. I'm the VP of Marketing and Customer Experience here at Tilson Homes.
And
just
you need an introduction.
You guys. Well, I did put up my name tag this time so that people would know I'm not Eric. But yeah, just excited. But yeah, everybody put in where you're watching from, where you're building. Let us know, is this your first time watching a Tilson Live? And are you excited to hear about construction? I can see that we have Adrian saying howdy. Adrian from Douglas, Texas, building the Angelina C. How does the Constitution fireplace work? I hear you can vent to other rooms.
Ooh, Constitution.
I know we did. Yeah, I know we did have one customer home tour that we showed that they put in a special Constitution fireplace that was vented into the different rooms so they could actually use it to heat the house.
I'll be honest with you. I did not know that. So I'm going to complete disclosure. It doesn't surprise me. I did not know that the Constitution was able to actually do that. So Zach Shell, our VP of purchasing, basically, he is the one that made that connection and allowed that to happen. So anyways, I would submit that how does it work? Obviously, it's going to have some way to create that combustion is going to occur, and it's going to transfer that heat into a different room. I'm going to bet you that there's some parameters of proximity and where it needs to be located in that home to make that happen, just based on an educated guess here. But it's actually going to be venting to the outside. So it's going to transfer that heat somehow to the other room. So that I would need to follow up with Zach Shell on. And I bet you we can get Adrian a more specific answer with just a little bit.
Yeah, Adrian, if you can send me a private message, I can try to look back. I do remember us showing that in a home tour, so I can go back and look at that job number and get you the information on that and kind of get that information on what model that was and everything to you and your sales team members so that you guys can look into that. But I know we did do it. Let's see. So we've got Shakitha watching from Waxahachie. So hey, thanks for joining us. And then I do see somebody from YouTube who's saying something that they need assistance with someone. If you could send us a private email, it's a financial question, so I'm not going to put it up on the screen. But if you could send an email to tilsonnews@tilsonhome.com, we can connect you with what you need to get that information. And then Adrian, you're welcome for answering that. So yeah, guys, Eric, so Justin is here today to kind of talk us through the construction process, and it is kind of a long presentation. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that, but you guys keep putting your questions in and we will answer them. So let's jump in.
All right. Well, thank y'all again for allowing me this opportunity, and I look forward to this. So we are going to go through this. It's going to be a bunch of nuts and bolts, but we're going to give a general overview. So first things first. Oh boy, and Don, there we go. Sun froze now.
There you go.
So it's taken a lot of work for y'all to get to this position to where we actually start construction. So I know some of that is just waiting, and we need this person to do that, the entity, the power company, whoever that is. So you design that floor plan, go through this. I promise you we're there step by step. We're going to guide you through it and make that as painless as humanly possible so that we can start construction. One of the aspects that I did want to touch on today, because we kind of modified the slide deck, I was talking about the site evaluation meeting. We have an in-depth presentation for this that John McIntyre, I believe, has been on to review with the Facebook friends.
Yes.
But this is one of the most critical things. This is the first time we get to go see the property, and we want to make sure that everything is covered before we launch into construction. Nobody likes any hidden little problems to pop up later on. So we do our best to uncover that through this site evaluation meeting. We locate the house, we determine where the utilities are or they're not, and what we need to do to get them there and make sure they align with the overall design of what you have intended for the property. So a lot of great things are going to be unfolded there and give you a chance to make decisions on what's going to work best for your life. And also including future improvements that you might have, like a pool, a shed or a barn, whatever that might look like, would also be something that we would uncover during this phase of construction. The actual launch to construction is coming at a pre-construction meeting where you're going to meet the builder for the first time, most likely. He's going to review the documents that we need to absolutely get started. Just make sure that we have everything identified. Just any last minute hesitations or decisions that need to be made will be captured here. But this is really to solidify all systems are go, and we are ready to launch into construction. So, like with any construction, everybody talks about the foundation being the most important part, which is absolutely correct. But it's also important that we design it to the dirt that we're sitting on. So in other presentations, I'm sure you've heard about the geotech being involved, making sure that they're engineering the beam width, beam depths, the number of cables, all of those components that go into creating that slab have been identified. Once we get there, we kind of have some options. This is one of the things that across the state might deviate a little from region to region. So in our North Texas market, it's going to be most common that we see a pad like you see on the left side with the skid steer sitting out in front. And then when we move to the Gulf Coast, we'll see some pads, and then sometimes we choose to just use straight forms and just elevate the concrete up without a pad. And then when we go to Central Texas, generally speaking, we are just going to be on high forms. In the picture to the right, you can see this is about 48 inches high that form board is setting up. We had one not too long ago that we were setting forms, and I believe it's 13 feet high. That's how high that foundation is.
Oh, wow.
That is a lot of concrete. So we had to do some special things on that. It was pretty interesting to watch them set those forms at 13-foot tile and all the bracing associated with it. But this is the general overview of what goes into those foundations and what you might expect depending on where you're going to move. Sometimes we offer options depending on which way maybe that you would like to see it go. So there's some flexibility within this on the front end side. Once we have those forms set, we're going to start talking about the actual engineering components of that. And one of these is what we call a hard point. So it's not uncommon when we build an uncompacted pad that we're going to dig a hole, nothing more than like a hole that you would dig for a fence post, basically, quite a bit larger and probably going to be a little bit deeper. But this hole is going to be filled with concrete and sometimes rebar, and that's going to penetrate down into the virgin soil. So we'll start incorporating these shortly after we've set those forms. The next step is we're going to start having our plumbing grounds. So we all want our indoor plumbing. Nobody wants to go outside and do that. So we're going to put the plumbing indoors. So we will run our supply lines when necessary. For instance, like if we have a island with a sink in it, that's going to be a supply line that we're going to have to run in the slab. But more than anything, we're going to see our drain lines. And all of those drain lines are going to be penetrated up past the finished floor of the foundation. And then they're also going to have fall. And we discussed this in the site evaluation meeting to make sure that we have proper fall, because all of that wastewater has to go out just like a slip and slide. You need it on a slope so that it goes out to either a septic or a sewer line. So all of that will come together with our plumber. And then we start doing the makeup. So this goes back to the engineer at this point, the engineering. And you can see in this top picture, that is what some would call as a waffle slab, slab on grade, but all of this is going to be filled with concrete. So these little pads that you see are at a certain height. So we have appropriate nominal thickness of that concrete on the top side. And then the beams that you see in between those pads have to achieve a certain depth and a certain width. Once we've achieved that and we've dug all that out, a lot of work, then we're going to come back in and you will see the black plastic, the poly that we put in, and cables. And so the poly is a vapor barrier to keep moisture from coming into the home from underneath the slab. It contains that moisture underneath there for consistent moisture content. And the other thing is the cables. The cables are actually like the skeleton, if you will, of the concrete. That's what's going to hold everything together and make sure that it's not falling on the edges or lifting on the edges. It's not going to tilt, sag, all those fun things. So all of this engineering goes straight into here, and these guys work extremely hard to hit all those correct depths and widths and cable counts and all those fun things. The next step is the actual pour. Again, our engineer is going to specify, generally speaking, I've not seen him deviate from 3,000 PSI concrete. So what you see here in these photos is the pictures of us finishing the actual concrete. Very exciting day. Encourage you to come out. I want to make sure that you're seeing all the activities. It's a really exciting day that day. Stay out of the way of the trucks. Nobody needs to be over there. Stay away. Let them guys do it. And plus the mud splatters up and gets all over your clothes and all that stuff. So builders are generally dirty on this day as they're watching the slab get poured. But we'll go through filling those forms. And you can see them doing a bull float and then a trowel finish on the concrete as we get through it. So this process, we like to start as early as possible, generally speaking. These last few weeks, it's been a little cold, so the guys have gotten a little reprieve. We're starting a little bit later so that we get the temperatures a little bit warmer. But during the summer months, the earlier the better. So expect this to be at odd hours. It's not uncommon for us to be pouring concrete at odd hours.
Okay.
So once we've got that, we're going to pour the slab. It's going to cure for a little bit. It starts curing immediately, but it's going to take it a few days to actually get to, I think, 60% capacity. So we're waiting at the point to come in, and now we're going to tension the cables that we mentioned earlier. And you can see on the right-hand side, there's this machine. And at this point, our engineer has come out multiple times, but this is another critical point where he will come out and he makes sure that we've elongated those cables to reach 30,000 KPI. Excuse me. 30,000 PSI on the slab. So again, that is the structure of our foundation. And so we want to make sure that all of these are elongated correctly so that they meet the correct PSI and that slab is under full tension. This generally is going to occur about 7 to 14 days. Somewhere in that time frame, we're going to be able to come in and stress that slab. Now, it's not uncommon that I get a call or a question, or my builders will get a question about, hey, is it okay that they started framing without the post-tension cables being stressed? Yes, we're not pulling the full weight of that frame pack on top of that foundation at that point. It's evenly distributed across the edges. And there's just not a frame crew that we have that's going to operate so fast that it's going to condense the amount of pressure on one point of that slab and create an issue. So it's very likely we're going to start before that slab is under full tension. It's not uncommon that we do that, and everything's fine with that.
Okay, good to know.
The next part is we move in. My favorite part, by all means, is the framing. So this is the foundation guy certainly sets the stage for the framer and all the other. But the framer sets the stage for so many of our other contractors. Basically, all of them are going to be reliant on this framer to make sure that they have set the stage for success for those later components. And my builder, who is going to be there, you're going to see him at this stage, and you're going to start to see black marks and notes and everything else. So he's giving little direction, indicating where certain things are going to be, such as your cabinets, might locate a tub if it's a freestanding. They're going to really start identifying where things are going. So basically, we're taking that floor plan that you've created, and we're transferring those notes onto the slab where they actually go. And some of those things we have to work a little bit. So if you have a gas line and an electrical panel box, we might need a certain degree of separation between those. So we're going to really identify those distances to make sure we're compliant. But this by far is the most exciting stage of construction. So you can see here they've got all their walls and they've got a good start on their rafters and even their OSB wrap. So all of our homes are wrapped in 100% OSB. So that's super important. It does a lot of things. One, uplift, shear. We start talking about the ability for the siding or whatever veneer is going to be put in there. We're always nailing into something solid and not something that's flimsy. So that really helps on the later stages to make sure our finishes are very nice. The next step is some of our standards here, a little bit more on framing. So you can see that we use Tyvek over the OSB. We also come in and we do additional blocking within the home. So it's super important that we have good joists, and we'll take some of that lumber that may have a knot or two in it, like you see in the top left of the second picture from the left. That's okay. This is just going to be some blocking that we're using, honestly, to anchor some cabinets in. So structurally, it's going to hold a whole lot of weight, way more than that cabinet's ever going to hold. But we're doing that so, again, we have something firm to anchor into. Another thing that you'll see here is that our framer has put an insulation board, and that third picture from the left is actually a window. And in the header, you'll see that blue line. That's actually foam. So we're increasing the amount of insulation that we have in the header. The old school methodologies, we would have just come in and put some little strips of OSB or plywood, and that would act as the spacer, if you will, to reach the cavity of that stud bay. But this grabs a little bit of insulation from us, making us more energy efficient. The last picture that we see on the right, that's another way of framing up a T or a corner that allows us to insulate back behind that wall. Super important, again, because we're grabbing more area, surface area on the outside to make sure it's insulated properly, minimizing the amount of electrical bills and air infiltration that's coming into the home. Old school framing, which I used to do when I was a young kid, we would build these corners to where it blocked them off and you could not insulate within there. So a little bit of an advancement there that's made the homes more energy efficient. So again, I can speak all day about framing. I just love the framing aspect. So now, after you get past that and the framer's possibly gone and you're sad because you love the framing so much like I do, you move into Cornice. And this is kind of our exterior trim carpenter, if you will. A lot of times it might be the same crew that we have out there, but everything that they're going to do on the outside of the home is going to be visible again. So all of the siding, the cedar treatments, the post bases, anything we see here is going to be visible when we're done. Now our painter has to come in and he's going to beautify it just like he would our trim work on the inside. But truly, this guy is worried about that. His main focus is not on the aesthetics, though. It is a critical component. We're also wanting to make sure that his work is also going to make sure that we don't have any water infiltration. So we'll start talking a lot about flashing, types of flashing and where they go, because nobody wants water in their home after it's done. That is not what we're wanting. So critical inspection pieces that go into the cornice work that the guys put up. The next thing, after we get it dried in the previous photo, you saw the black lino liner that we use. It's synthetic, but we've dried it in. Now we can start bringing in some mechanical components, one of which we start with is the HVAC. So everything will go in for the HVAC at this point, minus the outside condenser, any of the outside, the trims, if you will. But all of our ductwork will be ran. We're going to put our unit in the attic at this point. We're also going to have a dehumidifier. We couldn't squeeze the dehumidifier into the photos here, but we'll install our dehumidifier at this point, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, because I really like dehumidifiers, just not as much as framing. But all of the HVAC components will go in at this point. So you can see all of the stuff is insulated, nice and neatly ran. We got our primary drains, secondary drains, just really clean work here. After the HVAC is installed, then we're going to come in and we're going to put our plumbing top out, or plumbing rough, as they would say out in Central Texas. So at this point, they're going to connect to those pipes that we had in the slab, elevate them above the slab level and make sure they're vented properly. And also all of our water supplies that go into the sink areas, showers, tubs areas. washing, and all that fun stuff. So you'll see in here that we're using a grade A Ordeneaux with compression fittings. It's a really good product. I put this in my house. I love Ordeneaux. They make a great product. We have our pan liner that's coming in here with our square drain. It's blocked up on the edges. And our later stages, we're going to put the hardy backer over that. We'll talk about that when we get to tile. And then obviously we have our toilet stub there to the right. Not the great picture, Don. I don't know. I think we could do a better job on representing plumbers than what we've done here. I might have to revisit the slides here.
You can send me some new pictures.
They're not boring people. They're really not, but I've just made them so boring. I almost feel bad. HVAC guys have dehumidifiers. At least that's cool. Yeah.
Well, plumbing's pretty important. I'm very fond of my plumbing. So
indoor plumbing is
I appreciate them.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great. So we get through our plumbing, and now we're going to do our electric rough. So you can see in these pictures, the one to the very left, this is a guy that really takes great care in his work. So all of those are home runs that are going to end up at an electrical panel, and they feed throughout the house. They go to all your switches and all your outlets, but they all connect back to this main panel, which most of y'all will be very familiar with. The panel, the breakers and all that, that's where that's all heading. Mm-hmm. And then you obviously see a switch. And they do get to have some fun with TV, low voltage stuff, I guess. So they're not really boring until the end. They become boring. But on the outside here, you can see that panel and our meter can. So all of our electric roughs are going to be done. We use 14 gauge wire on all our lights, but you will have some 12 gauge that go to GFCIs and arc fault breakers. There's a lot of codes that we have to follow. Our electricians have to follow when they're doing this, and the setup begins here. You can kind of see here where they mark the switches, starting to see some beginnings of things. And in that middle picture, you can see where they wrote a note on the toe plate there. So you're starting to see some elements of the builder engaging himself to make sure everything's done correctly here. My guys do a great job of that. Some builders are going to do this a little differently. We wait to put our shingles on. So we dried it in. Earlier, we talked about that Rhino liner that was over. It's a synthetic liner. It nails down really good. It does not flap in the wind and break and tear like the old tar paper does. So our confidence level is, let's have the roofer, one guy, go out there and all of those penetrations that have to go through the roof, all the ventilation, any of the air hawks that we have, like you see in this top picture, he's going to come back in when everybody's done so that we don't get paint all over the shingles. And number two, he's responsible and he's going to be able to do a real clean job. Other builders sometimes will send that roofer and then they come back out later and they'll try and patch up around the shingles, around those roof vents. We just prefer that they come in, do it all in one shot, and we should be in really good shape.
Yeah, you want the roofer taking care of the holes in the roof, not the plumber.
I don't want a roofer doing plumbing, and I don't want a plumber doing roofing. They can, but let's not do that. Let's just have one guy that does his job and does it really well.
Absolutely.
So we've got all that here. We're talking about the bent pipes and also the drip edge. I think we've been doing colored drip edge now for 2 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So anyways, that's something that you'll select when you're planning. And we look forward to seeing all the colored drip edge instead of the old galvanized stuff we used to use back in the day. So great addition there. Next, we're going to get into inspections. I kind of breezed over that. My fault. I got excited. I'm on Facebook Live, but we have multiple inspections that go into the foundation, and that theme is carried throughout the build. So before we enter into drywall or even insulation, we have a third-party inspector come through. We use black marker a lot of times. Some of the guys will use some spray paint, but you're going to see little notes between my builder and my inspectors, and they're going to make sure that everybody's comfortable and confident to advance into the next stages. So we will have little notes. We get those corrections made, and then we move into drywall. So whatever we find there, which is also a good time for you to go through. We invite you in. We give you a key. We have nothing to hide. Any questions, please send them to us, and we will make sure and address those and either explain it to you or get a correction if it's necessary. So just be aware, you're going to see some of these notes. That's common, and I want my guys making notes. In fact, they will get in trouble if I don't see notes in the house because that tells me they maybe didn't do what they're supposed to do. So they all hear it from me.
Absolutely.
So once we're done, we have an opportunity, and you'll start to see that as a linear process as construction is, there are some things that we can rotate in that schedule that logistically make no difference. And one of those would be a termite treatment. So we come in after that slab. It can be as soon as we dry it in, but typically around inspection, before we dry or before we insulate, we're going to start seeing signs that we have these different colors coming in. The color has nothing to do with anything. It's a dye. It's nothing to do with the termite treatment whatsoever. But that just signals to us, hey, I've been here and I've sprayed it and it's done correctly. So we will see the termite treatment coming in prior to installation.
Well, I think it's also important to mention, depending upon who the person is that's doing the termite treatment, sometimes it is clear because, like you said, the color doesn't have anything to do with the effectiveness. So you may not see this color if the person did clear, but we do have the records that they were there.
We do have a sticker that is also, great point. We do have a sticker that we will locate sometimes on a window. Sometimes it'll be on the washing machine box that you'll see in the utility room. So there will be some signal that he's been there. So great point, Don. Finally, we get through all the inspections and now we're ready to spray foam. I really enjoy spray foam. I've become a huge fan of it. I think it just complements our product really well. I can tell you, sound deafening of it and the insulation of it, it's just been a really good step in the right direction. So I'm really excited about our spray foam program. We've been doing this for years now. Like I said, I just built my own. I've been living in a spray foam home for now 4 months. I just love it. Electric bill's good. Humidity's low because we have a dehumidifier, all those fun things. So this has been a great thing. But we do have an inspection that comes in here. I know the little voids that we will sometimes get, sometimes it's a little shallow. It will not be the consistent depth of the stud cavity. So we get that occasionally where people ask, but it will fill that foam that cavity. You will have some little voids that are in there, but we're trying to make sure that we're sealed between the studs really well, behind the outlets and all of those things. But when you walk in there, you're going to feel a tremendous difference once that spray foam's been done. I do not want you in the home where they're trying to spray foam. They will shut down and run you out of there right away. That is a bad time. They're in those big costumes or suits for
very messy process.
Yes, it's messy. You don't want to breathe it in. So give them a day, let them do the thing, and you can go in there the next day. But really cool process here. So again, I mentioned the third party. They're going to come in. The PS stands for polyseal. So if we find those little voids, the inspector, he gets really excited and he'll mark in green paint and he'll tell us where our flaws is, and we'll bring them back and get them corrected if should we have anything.
Awesome.
Finally, we move into drywall.
Let's pause right here for a second.
Okay.
We do have some questions, so let's go ahead and catch up on those, and then we can get into drywall.
I like it.
All right. So we've got Doug and Jan. They're building in Angelina and Bergheim. They're asking, what are the water requirements when construction starts? Their well isn't going to be finished by then.
You know, ideally we have water from the onset, and that's hard to do sometimes. Get it on a well driller schedule, and then we got to get power to it. So if you're waiting on temporary power or permanent power, we can start. It's not ideal, but we can certainly start. There does become a point where if we don't have water, we can't really advance. If there's any masonry, the painter, everybody's really starting to like water being on the job site. Dry time of the years, I like having water there just in case we need to wet the area down before we're cutting rebar, things of that nature. So we can start. It's just, I don't want us to just kind of put it on the back burner. I would always like that to be front of mind and trying to get that done as soon as humanly possible.
Okay. And then we've got Jenny joining us from Houston. She is building a Barton Springs and Canyon Lake. Awesome. Nice.
Thank you, Jenny.
And then we've got Brenda, who's looking forward to building in Gillespie County. Thanks, Brenda.
Nice.
Let us know what you're building. We've got another person over on YouTube. We've got Will. He's in Eastern Washington State in the wine country. He's in the early research stage to locate a custom builder in Texas, the Stephenville area in Comanche County. We can cover you there. And we love the Lone Star plan. Yeah, the Lone Star is a gorgeous, gorgeous home. So thanks for joining us, Will. You've definitely come on a great day because you've got Justin talking all about how we do this thing. We got Amanda from D'Hanis. They're building in Angelina C. Welcome, Amanda. We got Tessie. Hello, we have a Barton Springs home and love it. We live in a new community in Center Point, Kerr County. We now have 5 Tilson homes in the neighborhood. One of them is in construction. Awesome. Thanks for checking in, Tessie. And then Jenny's very excited that you're here because she's just passed framing on her Barton Springs. So she's wondering if you made any alterations. But Jenny, you know, if you're in framing, you're done. No more alterations for you. But you can talk about Tessie's home. We got Juan saying hello, building LaPorte in Colorado County. Seems we were at the slab pour waiting part as they have the cables in already. All right. Well, that means you'll be going soon. So I'm sure your builder will get you that schedule as soon as we have it done. We got David having a Refugio C farmhouse built in Comanche County, Texas. It's going to be beautiful. Our family is so excited, and we are thrilled that Tilson is building it. Oh, thank you, David. So glad to have you here. Then we've got Rob and Denita building a LaPorte C in Marion County. Just had a meeting with Cody last Thursday for stakeout, waiting on the fill estimate. First Tilson home built in Marion. I don't know. Is it? Marion is a recent county, I think, that we did add. So you might be. But if I go back 95 years, there might be another one. But you're the current one in recent history. Yeah, I would say pretty close. We got Amber building the Wimberley model in Comfort, Texas. Hey, Amber. David says that Comfort is gorgeous. But then he also has a question about our spray foam, saying that he thought it was closed cell and not open cell. So can you talk a little bit about that?
No, we're definitely using an open cell. When you're closing in that wall, you don't want to use a closed cell. You'll start capturing moisture in that wall. So you want it to actually have some permeability or a way for that water to be mitigated out of it. Where you'll see closed cell is generally like on metal buildings. So when you see the inside of metal buildings that they've done, that's typically a closed cell. There is applications in residential construction. So like on a piling home or a crawl space, on the underneath side, they will use a closed cell because they don't want that moisture from the ground penetrating up through the surface or through the decking and the joists and everything there. So closed cell will not be used on the interior. It'll all be open cell.
Okay, makes sense. Then we have another question from YouTube. Is it possible to have a vault room size vault gun safe installed at the time of framing? Had one installed in my last custom home. Any special prep needed for install on the foundation?
So this we can do. I actually, Nick Yates up in North Texas, they had the best one. And what we actually did, we framed out the room and then it was a bolt together so they could bring those components in after the drywall, all that stuff. And they bolted it in, they put the door on it. He has a really good company, but we also have had people that have brought it in. It's just, they come in and they drop it down with equipment and then we frame around it. So we've done a variety of these, but yes, we've been able to do those things on multiple homes. So this might be one that the sales consultant might reach out to Construction Don and just say, hey, here's what we want to do. Get us incorporated in that design and we can assist with getting them there.
Yeah, just make sure your salesperson knows what you're looking to do and we'll get it into the plans and then construction will be aware and we'll make sure that we've designed so we were able to do that. We got Rosie saying hi, building in Angelina and Medina. Hey, Rosie. We got Rebecca saying howdy. We're building the Lone Star in Rosharon. How long are y'all currently taking to build from foundation to home complete?
You know, Rebecca, I get this question and I'm so excited because I'm more prepared to answer this today. I would tell you on a Lone Star in Rosharon. So we're building a bigger home. So I'm going to say that if I had to guess, and Chris Henson, who is typically the guy that's in that Rosharon area, I'm going to bet you he's at 225-ish. So I'll give it take a day or two. But a lot of that I would keep in mind to Rebecca. This time of year, it's great. The weather has been pretty kind. We went unscathed through the winter so far. Somehow, I just think March is going to be wet. And so when we start getting into that framing aspect, it's going to take a little bit longer than normal. That's generally, the other activities generally retain within that 2 to 3 day window, but framing is really the one that is going to take longer. There's a lot of details on that home. It's gorgeous. It just takes time. But if I had to guesstimate, 225 to 250, but I would tell you, talk to Chris because he's bigger than me and I think he's younger than me. And I don't want him chasing me down, but I would say somewhere in that 225 to 250 range is where I would guesstimate us at.
Sounds good. All right. We got Lisa saying we're about to get installation in our custom Tilson home in Heiko. Awesome. And then we've got Lindsay, who is scheduled to go in next month for consultation. Question regarding installing an in-home generator. So how would that work?
I tell you what, Zach Shell, again, I'm going to point back to my folks that do all the great work. But I think we've got a good opportunity there. So I would love for you to come in and talk to us about it. I believe we've inked a deal with Generac actually. So there's components that go in. If you're thinking about a generator, a little bit off of Lindsay's topic, if you're thinking about it, go ahead and get that transfer switch in now. It'll save you money down the road. Make sure you're thinking about the gas stub. I would go ahead and have a concept around what you want, whole house, or you want to run certain components. So there's some additional follow-up questions that we're going to ask, but we'll be able to accommodate the in-home generator.
Yep. Just let your sales consultant know that that's what you're looking for, and they can get you the price and everything that we need to do to make that happen. So that's awesome. It's definitely a good plan. All right. So you want to talk drywall? Everybody, these are great questions. Keep dropping them in and we'll answer them all before we leave today. But we do want to go ahead and get back into drywall so we can finish how this home comes together for you.
So Dawn, thank you. I'm glad you stopped us because I could have just kept, you saw me pacing. You were helping me pace myself. I am alternate Eric. I forget who it was. They're like Eric and Dawn. I'm like, oh, you meant alternate Eric. I'm alternate Eric. So the drywall and the exterior. So we're going to see the interior and the exterior. They kind of have two different paths at this point, and they'll merge back together at the end. So we kind of treat them as two different projects almost, if you think about it. So we're going to launch off on the interior, and we're going to circle back around to the exterior here in just a minute.
Okay.
But insulation's been, as I said, we got our inspection, we passed, and now we're going to start installing the drywall. And they'll obviously install the actual drywall. We screw that in. They might nail the edges just to hold it up there temporarily, but they're going to screw all of it in. And the other function that the actual drywall company will do is install what we're using is HardieBacker. So this is an older picture, but HardieBacker is what we're going to install around the showers. We have strategic locations where we'll place that. It goes in well with the tubs and our shower pans. So it all comes together as a system when we're finished up with the entire home. And we'll follow up with that on the tile stages. But we do our drywall hang, and then we're going to get into our tape and float. So you'll see these guys in here. So I think Lindsay was asking us how long it takes. This is one of those things that is very weather dependent. So we got to have this stuff drying out. So if it's super cold and humid outside, like it can get in Rocher, Texas, we're going to see this process drag out a little bit longer so that it dries adequately. We'll burn heaters a lot of times to try and speed that up. But you really want drywall mud to just be consistently drying. If it dries too fast, it wants to crack and shrink. And if it dries too long, well, everybody's bored and ready for something else to look at. So we'll pace ourselves through this, but they will come in and they're going to do their tape and float, let that dry. They're going to do some sanding before they get in there. They'll do a skim coat, and then the actual texture will go on. So you'll see a machine parked out front. It's got sheetrock mud that's going in there, and then they will blow that all over the walls. And you can see they're scraping the ceiling for that Monterey drag and orange peel on the walls. There again, it's a wet time. There's a lot of humidity in the summer. You walk in there and it just hits you. I mean, so this is, again, something that's going to take a little bit of time to dry depending on the time of year. If it's in the summer, they start at one end of the house and they go to the other and it's dry on one side. Winter, it's going to take a couple of days possibly. So
okay.
We get through our texture, and now we're going to start getting into the fun stuff. This is the stuff that you've been in the design center, you put all those thoughts and energy towards. So this is where it really gets exciting on the interior. Cabinets, again, kind of second favorite to framing, but you'll start to see the cabinets going in along with the trim work. So all of your doors, your baseboards, crown molding, if applicable, all those little wood details will start to come in, interior shelving, things of that nature. So we'll install the cabinets and trim, and then we skip in. It's taking two live. So we wanted to break this presentation up a little bit. But the exterior, if we have masonry, the mason has probably been there. They can work simultaneously as our inside contractors, but he's going to show up at some point. If you have any kind of stone or masonry on the inside of the home, we're probably trying to strategically align them so they're coming out after drywall to then be able to accomplish all of the work there on your home at the same time rather than multiple trips back and forth. So there is a little strategy that the builders are going to deploy. They are the experts at this, and they will know how their crews work and what's the best methodology to get in completion. So hang in there. But we'll also have all the paint completed actually well before we get the shingles on, like we talked about earlier. Once the masonry is done, or if it's all siding, this is a great time. We would love to see our septic systems, if you're on a septic, getting installed shortly thereafter masonry. So let your builder guide you, but be really active with those utilities. It's generally one of the things that when we get to the end, it's one of the biggest hindrances to getting you into a closed home. So make sure that you're on top of those things. But we handle them all. So all you got to do is tell us up front. We'll be more than happy to take on your septic or any of those kind of things. Just let us know and we'll gladly take it on. And then y'all aren't frustrated with it. So we're going back to the interior. We've got all of our trim work done. We've got our paint completed. Now we're moving into the tile process. And the picture on the left is, it's not pretty. It's not going to be pretty until the tile's covering it. But that ugly stuff that you see all over the walls there, the blue stuff in this picture, that is actually a water barrier so that the grout is porous on tile. So we don't want any moisture collecting back behind that wall. Moisture is bad on the inside. We want to mitigate that as much as possible. So that product is going to be rolled all over that shower, behind the wall, tub walls, anywhere that it's a wet area. We're going to roll this on. And then on the right, you can see that the tile's been applied. So it will go right on top of that once this has had a chance to dry. So lots of cool tile work here. So flooring, again, depending on the type of flooring that you use and where it's located, our schedule is going to deviate. So for instance, tile historically has gone in your bathrooms, utility rooms. We've seen a trend where now the LVPs are coming into those areas. So we're going to change our philosophy or our strategy a little bit about when we do the plumbing trims and when some of these floorings will get installed. So here you can see we got an option of LVP, tile, and carpet within this photo group here. But you'll see these coming in at different times depending on location. Stained concrete. So we'll have stained concrete. We separated this out because this is a little bit different all across the state as to when they do the application. So sometimes they will come in earlier in construction and then we'll cover that entire floor, trying to protect it the best we humanly possibly can. And then sometimes we might wait till it's a little bit further. I know one of the contractors wait until after drywall. They come in there and they will do the stained concrete. But stained concrete is there. The other thing with stained concrete, it's not finished until it's finished. So that means we've got to get all the way through construction. We've got to re-clean that floor because even though it's protected, there's still going to be dust and things that get underneath. We got to clean all that up, let it rest. Then we bring the stained concrete guy back in. And he's going to polish or finish that floor. And then it just sits there for a day or two to make sure it cures and dries and all those fun things. But stained concrete is a totally different animal than the other flooring tops, meaning that it's stained into the concrete, not a topical application.
Right.
So, then we get in, and this is a little bit back and forth, but plumbing trims, I believe everybody's seen these components here, so nothing new or earth-shattering that we'll see here. I'm going to skip ahead. We talked about our electrician. You can see the different types of breakers. You'll notice the ones at the very top on the panel up there on the picture on the left. Those are arc fault breakers with a GFI, I believe, incorporated into them. So that is something that code has introduced. We'll go over extensively what an arc fault breaker is and a GFI when we're doing your walkthrough, because yes, we will be doing a walkthrough, introduce your home to you at the very end. But the electrician will install all the light fixtures. Don, did you pick those light fixtures? Those look like Dawn fixtures to me.
I did not, but I do love them.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
I like it.
Yeah.
So the HVAC trim, again, we talked about the HVAC. So we need the electrician to come in there. We got to energize the equipment. So then he can do his AC startup. And once he comes out, he'll start that AC. He's also going to start that dehumidifier and our thermostat. He's going to get everything operational because we want to climatize that house. Now, I'm going to go back to, there is sometimes that we have to wait on certain components potentially. Like if you had a wood floor, for instance, we might be waiting on that HVAC to get in there so we can actually climatize that house. When we move that material in, it's reducing the amount of shrinking, swelling, expansion, all those fun things that come along with it. But we will introduce all of those components. Again, I'm going to re-mention, we do use a dehumidifier on all of our homes. It's a great component. It greatly reduces the amount of humidity. You find yourself not lowering that thermostat as much. It's just a great component. You should have it. And last but not least, we're going back to the outside. We're going to talk a little bit about completion of that. And you can tell here what we're trying to illustrate in this photo is how our grading and drainage need to work. So one of the big things associated is the 10-year structural warranty in this home. We want to make sure that neither party has any problems because we're partners in this along with our engineer. He's been out to inspect it. He's going to look at this, but we want all of that water to consistently flow away from that home. So depending on how much room we have to work with, what the level of that property is going to dictate, or the configuration, the shape of the home will sometimes dictate how we have to grade that home out. So these arrows are kind of indicating how that's going to fall away from the home, but we will establish the appropriate grade prior to closing. And again, we do have an inspection that's associated with this to make sure that it's compliant with all the structure warranty information that we'll provide you. So then we get down and we're finished, and you're going to notice this little lull, and this happens. We need to stop. We got to let the dust settle. We got to get the cleaners in there and make sure we've done all that so that the painter can come back and touch up, do all those fun things. But we also have another round of inspections. I know y'all are probably sympathizing with my builders for the number of inspections, along with us that go out to the field and add them little love notes, if you will, about things that we'd like to see. But we will have another round of inspections, especially if you're in a municipality. So we have a third party. They're going to come back and check all the structural stuff, make sure it's connected correctly. We also have another energy inspection at this point. They will do a blower door, duct blaster test. So there's a litany of inspections that these guys are going to go through one more time at the very end, just to make sure everything's kosher. And if you're in the city, we get to do all those inspections and redo them through the city again. So they come out, they have their own band of warriors that come out and try and find things as well. But it is a little bit of a lull. And we, a lot of times, will incorporate our intro walk at the same time so that you're not experiencing as much as a downtime through that. All right, hit this one. We will do a final walkthrough. So this is an introduction to your home. We want to make sure that you understand all the components around the warranty. The homes are built differently, especially in the last 10 years. I mean, we're now going, and we talked about the dehumidifier. There's a fresh air intake. So those have little filters. They're super easy to maintain. Your septic system, there's going to be a maintenance associated with that, some responsibilities. We're going to talk about grading and drainage because you might be adding a sidewalk, or you might want to add some trees. Those are great questions to bring up to your builder so we can give you ideas of do's and don'ts because we don't want problems. Again, we don't ever want to see any of our customers have problems later on down the road. We'll we'll review how the thermostat works, the appliances, make sure everything's working. It's your chance to go through there and ask any questions. We're always available to help, but this is a great time to ask any questions that you have regarding the home. And then last but not least, we're going to introduce you to the warranty team. Christy Reyes is our VP of Customer Care. She heads up that team. We have people that answer the phone. They're real humans. They're not artificially intelligent or anything. They're real humans that answer our phones on the warranty side.
And they're real Tilson employees.
Yes, real Tilson.
It's not outsourced. Yeah.
So they're there. They love helping people. So any questions you have after the fact can be generated straight to them. And if there's something we need to come back and touch up or take care of, they're there. We have Tilson employees that are also technicians. So they are the handyman of all handymans. I'd put them up against any handyman out there, but they can fix just about anything. They're great. So if we have something that needs to be taken care of, they'll run out there and take care of it for you. And then I think Lindsay, she beat me to it, Dawn. I mean,
yeah, she did.
Stopped. I could have got to the slide. She'd be like, well, I don't even need to ask anymore. But 225, this slide, I would tell you right now, these guys have just been doing a great job. Our average right now across the state through last year was right at 205, I believe.
Oh, wow.
It was. So we've reduced some days there. But I would honestly tell you, it's so dependent on what the weather's doing, how the utility companies are responding, and then square footage is just going to make a difference. And that framer is really going to dictate the pace of how long those extra days are if we're getting past that 205. So anyways, Don, I'm trying to think. I feel like I haven't breathed. I haven't taken a breath yet, so I got to breathe first. So I guess give me some questions. I guess we're at question parts.
Yeah, no, you did great. Yeah, everybody drop your questions in. They're being shy, Justin. I think you did such a good job. They don't have any questions. We do have Rebecca saying thank you for answering her question. And then we've got David and Lisa celebrating that they're neighbors just down the road from each other. So that's exciting. We always love it when we can make some friendship connections. Let's see. Dewana is asking, when you said 205, for when are you starting that count?
I'm starting my count when I receive your file and ready to construct. So we're right at total cycle, I think was right under 365 through last year. So when you hit the go button on that contract, you're right at 365, and sometimes it's a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. It just depends on where you're building. But generally speaking, I know the construction side. So once you start and you met the builder, we're generally about 205 days at that point.
Yeah, so the 205 days, because David is saying signing, and it's not from signing. We do still have, we're averaging, we're aiming for about 120 days. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. It just depends upon what's going on in your neighborhood. But the 205 is from when you are officially released to construction. So it's after all of the pre-construction stuff is done. So, with any custom builder, when you're building on your own property, you're going to have two phases to your home building project. So this is a great question, and please make sure you ask every other builder this as well. When they're giving you their build times, find out how much is upfront, how much is actual building, because there is a whole process upfront for designing your home. All those steps that was on Justin's first slide. So figuring out where we're going to put your home, what colors are you going to put in it, figure out financing, getting utilities connected, all of those kinds of things. If you're in an area where we need to get approval from your neighborhood, from your architectural control committee, or we need to get some city permits, getting your septic system approved, all of that kind of work is happening before these homes get handed over to Justin's team. So Justin's 205 days is from when we say, hey, everything is ready to go. All the plans are done. Everything's approved. All the permits are signed. We've sent in the purchase orders for every item in this home. Here's everything. Go builder, go. That's the date he's counting from. So it's going to be right around when your pre-construction meeting is basically when he's starting his clock. It's okay, David. You weren't. I understand. We all want these things to go as fast as they possibly can, but we want to make sure we're giving everybody the complete information. So it is from when we're ready to do construction. And that upfront, we've got some going as fast as 60 to 90 days. It just depends upon where you're building and how complicated it is in your area to get some of those things done. But that's a great question. So thank you for asking. Well, I will give you guys, it's going to be my last call for questions. And then I'll just give you some updates on what's happening throughout the state. If you like construction and you're interested in seeing this more in person, we do have one of our Muddy Boots tours coming up in West Texas. And that is going to be not this weekend, but next weekend. So that's an opportunity. Everything that Justin showed you, it's going to be at that point where we've done the spray foam. Is where that house is going to be. So you're able to see all of those, what we call the mechanicals as a group. So the plumbing roughs are in, the electric is in, the HVAC rough is in, all of that. So you're seeing everything before we put up the drywall and start putting in the pretty stuff. Because really behind that sheetrock is where the quality of the home really is. Even though you're not going to see it on the day-to-day basis, that's where how well built your home is going to really come out. So this is an opportunity to go out to an actual customer's home, meet with that builder, and he's going to show you all of these components in person and give you a more depth explanation of, how we do everything that we do. And you can actually see it and kind of get that experience for yourself. So walking through. So if you want to scan that QR code, you guys can register for that. And then I see we have some questions coming in. We got David asking, when the post-tension crew is finished, will their grid be tight or no?
When the post-tension crew is finished, yes, the cables will all be tensioned at that time. So all of the cables, front to back and left to right, will all be tensioned to that 30,000 PSI at that point.
Awesome. Great question. All righty,
so
guys.
The only thing I would reference on that, Don, is if they did a partial stress. Sometimes we will do a partial stress. So when we go in, maybe 3 to 4 days after that slab, so they'll come out possibly twice. Tensioning. So when he says finished, yes. When they're finished, yes, everything will be tight at that point. And I'm trying to differentiate between how technical that question may be. we can connect with David if we need to and give a further explanation.
Okay. So it is possible that they might come twice?
It's not uncommon that we'll come in and do a pre-stress on a slab.
Okay. Interesting. So, I did not know that. Learn something new every day. Then we've got Carolyn saying great info today. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Appreciate you tuning in. All righty, guys. Well, that is the last question I see. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As you know, the journey does not have to end here. We have got 234 other shows just exactly like this on our blog. So wealth of information out there on our YouTube channels, on our website. We have 12 design centers throughout the state where you can come in person and sit down with our sales consultants. We've got our website that's open 24/7. You can call our new home team there. They would be happy to get you signed up for an appointment, get you scheduled to go out and meet with our people on site. And, we've got our Facebook channel. We've got our YouTube channel. We've got an Instagram. We have a TikTok when we're feeling it. You can do that. We have in-person seminars throughout the state. If you want to come and sit with like-minded people and get everything straightened, learn more about the process, get advice from your neighbors and all of that, that's a great opportunity to come and learn more. And then I do see we did have one more question come in for things not included with the home price. Are those items paid for out of pocket, or can they be paid at that time? So it's going to depend upon what it is. If we have room in your mortgage, we can actually finance those components into the actual cost of the home itself, or you can pay. So it kind of depends upon what you want to do. If you want to go ahead and finance that into your final mortgage, or if you want to pay for those out of pocket, it's really up to you. How you want to handle that. But we will know before we do anything on your home, before we start any construction at all, we're going to know exactly how much it costs, including those items that are not included in the home price. So things like your septic system, if you wanted to upgrade any of your finishes, those kinds of things, we'll know all those costs before we begin construction. And we'll get that kind of figured out, and we'll figure out exactly how to pay for that. So if we've got room in the mortgage, we can put it in the mortgage, or if you need to pay for it out of pocket, you can do that at that time. And then let's see, David is clarifying, would somebody relay what the response was to my question, tight or not? Yes, David, what Justin said is that when we are completely done, your cables will be completely tightened. He was just mentioning that they might come out twice to do that, but when they're finished, it's going to be completely tight. Let's see. Dewana is asking, at what point is the appraisal done? So the appraisal is actually done before we begin construction. So what we're going to do in that upfront stage, when we're designing your home and you're picking out your finishes and all of those things, we are actually going to get with your bank and have them do a to-be-built appraisal. So that's going to be done like a usual appraisal. Like if you were buying an existing home, they're going to go and pull comps. The bank is going to order the appraisal, and a third party person is going to come in. They're going to pull comps for the area. They're going to look at what we are building, and they're going to give us the actual upfront appraisal before we begin any kind of construction. So you're going to know exactly what that house is going to appraise for before we even begin construction. That is a great question. And again, that's something I'd encourage you to ask every builder, because some of them wait to do it until the home is completely finished. And then if there is a gap between the appraisal and what you paid on the home, you're stuck paying that out of pocket. So you could get in a messy situation. So it is important to ask your builder when they're going to do that. With us, we're going to know before we even begin construction. All right. And then we got David saying thank you, and Dewana saying thank you. All right. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope to see you. I don't think we'll be back next week, but Eric and I should be back the week after. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to soon make you guys part of the Tilson family. Bye, everybody.
Take care.